you about something very familiar, the water cycle. Now, you've learned about the water cycle continuously throughout your schooling, and it should sound very familiar to you. There may be some vocab words that you haven't heard before, but we'll explain it as we go. Now, of the world's water supply, 97% is ocean or salt water. Only 3% is fresh water. And of that 3% fresh water, 1% comes from the surface water, like lakes and streams. 3% of that is groundwater. 0% or a fraction is in the atmosphere, water vapor. But 96% of fresh water on Earth is in glaciers and is stored in ice caps. So it's a very small percentage of water that's able to be used. In fact, 97% is useless. So here's a picture of a glacier and an example of how it can be water that's locked up or stored in a frozen environment. Now let's talk about the water cycle. A water cycle is a model that's used to illustrate the movement and phase changes of water that's at or near the Earth's surface. Water is constantly circulating between the different layers of our atmosphere, of our Earth, the hydrosphere, the atmosphere, and the lithosphere. And it's powered by the sun, our solar energy or insolation. The primary source of water is evaporation from our ocean water. Now here's a picture of the hydrologic cycle, the water cycle. And here is a diagram representing all phases and processes that go on from location to location. So first we have evaporation and transpiration, which is the process of going from a liquid to a water vapor, and it's how the water enters our atmosphere. Then we have condensation that occurs, bringing it back into liquid form, and then precipitation, where it falls from the sky. Now, once it hits our ground, it can either infiltrate or run off. In which case, then we'd be back at stage one, where it's ready for evaporation or transpiration to go back into the air. Now, how does water enter the atmosphere? Through the two processes called evaporation and transpiration. Put that together and we have evapotranspiration. Again, it's the processes of all evaporation on Earth. The evaporation from waters and transpiration is evaporation from plants. So let's look and see how that works. Well, here we have the roots that absorb the water at the bottom of the plant. Water travels through the plant when in action known as capillary action, which we'll talk about in another few weeks. And then the water evaporates off of the leaf surface and goes back into the air. That's transpiration. Evaporation occurs from all other surfaces. Now, how is the water returned to the earth from the air? And that's when air is cooled to the dew point temperature, condensation will occur. And that's going to take the water vapor and turn it back into a liquid droplet in the air. And that's going to form precipitation in clouds. Now this diagram depicts the parcel of air as it moves upwards and how it expands and cools. And as it goes further up into the atmosphere, it expands and cools more until it reaches that dew point temperature, in which it's going to turn from the water vapor into a liquid droplet. And then once we have that form over and accumulating over time, it will eventually become precipitation and go back to the earth. Now, once this earth receives that rain, what's going to happen to that water? Well, there's a couple of choices here. It can either infiltrate, which means that the water or the precipitation will seep into the ground and it will become groundwater or water under the ground. If it can't infiltrate, then it will run off or form puddles, right? Precipitation flows across Earth's surface into streams and lakes and oceans where it's once again evaporated. So runoff is when the water will literally flow across the surface or puddle up on the surface. It cannot be infiltrated into the ground. And that ends the water cycle video, but we're going to be talking a lot more about these definitions. So along with your notes, you may want to start by making flashcards or just drawing pictures next to those terms so that you know what those terms mean. It's going to be important for this unit, okay? So we will see you next time, and when we'll continue to learn more about water. Thank you. Have a great day.